Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the fastest gaming phone on the market right now, powered by the all-new Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. This is known as the Redmagic 9 Pro, and this thing is putting down a lot of power. Basically, if the application or game is compatible with Android, this thing is going to run it without an issue, and we've got a lot of great features built in here, given that it is from Redmagic, like one of my favorites, known as console mode. We can actually turn this into a gaming/emulation console, connect it to a large screen, and by the end of the video, we'll definitely take a look at it. But getting right into it, personally, I think this version of the phone is the best looking one. This is known as the Cyclone. With this, we get 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of internal storage. But keep in mind, they do offer a couple different variants. They've got the Snowfall, they've also got the Sleet, and the Sleet is going to be the lower end storage and lower end RAM. So obviously it will come in with a lower price, but you're going to see the same kind of performance here because it is still powered by that Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Besides the performance we can get out of this phone, I think another standout feature is the display. It's an all-new 6.8-inch BOE Q9 Plus display with a resolution of 2480 by 1116, and it will do up to 120 Hz. Plus, we don't have a camera punch-out or an island or anything like that. It's an under-screen front-facing camera. In this video, we're going to be running some benchmarks, testing out some native Android gaming. We'll also get into some emulation and big screen gaming. But when it comes down to the specs, like I mentioned, this is powered by the all-new Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. This is a 4nm SoC, and Qualcomm has come up with a new core design. We've got one Cortex X4 core running at up to 3.3 GHz, 5 Cortex A720 cores at 3.2, and 2 Cortex A520s at 2.3. With the Gen 3, we get an all-new Adreno 750 GPU with the clock up to 903 MHz. This model here has 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5X Ram, and remember you can pick one up with 12 gigs. For storage, we've got 512 gigabytes of UFS 4.0 storage, and this stuff is really fast. A 120Hz 6.8-inch BOE Q9 Plus FHD Plus display with a resolution of 2480 by 1116, and we've got a peak brightness up to 1600 nits. This does have the dual shoulder triggers, and these are the new 520Hz shoulder triggers, and with this new phone, they are backlit. Dual 3-dimension 1115K speakers, and yeah, these things can get loud. I've always liked the speakers that Redmagic has used. This actually puts out a little bit of bass, given that we're working with such a small little form factor unit here. Main camera on the rear is a Samsung GN9 50 megapixel. We've got a 6500 mAh battery, and this does come with an 80-watt charger. And this is running Android 14 with Redmagic UI. A lot of stuff has been updated here. And when it comes to the overall design of these newer Redmagic devices, I really do like them. They're definitely squared off a bit, but the older ones did have kind of a rounded back. Personally, I like this more of a candy bar style setup. Screen here is absolutely beautiful. Everything is super smooth, and of course, we've got our Redmagic button over here, or our Magic Time button. Once we flip this switch, it's going to bring us into basically our game launcher section, and from here, we've got a lot of tweaking and tuning that we can do with this device. Now, it automatically scans for my games, but we can always add different applications in here. And once we start one of these up, we will have access to all of the little add-ons that we can actually go through and download. If you're familiar with these Redmagic devices, you know this does have a built-in cooling fan, so we don't need to worry about thermal throttling with this. And this also has Diablo mode, which is kind of a hidden mode which just unlocks a ton of performance. Now, I call this section Magic Time. I'm not exactly sure what they're calling it now, but from here, we've got a lot of gaming-centric options that we can choose. Do not disturb, we can set this up with different color profiles. We can also change the RGB on the rear. Now, the fan itself does have an RGB LED. We can change the color up, and we can change the function of that LED. And from this section, we have a lot of plugins for gaming. So we've got an on-screen crosshair, we've got hunt mode, we've got do not disturb mode, 4D rumble mode, which only works with a few games here and there, but my favorite plugin is Diablo mode. So we've got a few power profiles that we can use: Eco, Balanced, and Performance, otherwise known as Rise mode. But Diablo mode is going to be that mode that really unlocks the performance. It'll take the clock up to 3.3 on that big core with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, and the GPU up to the maximum of 903 MHz. And just to give you an idea of what kind of performance the new Redmagic 9 Pro is putting out, I did run some benchmarks, and all of this is using Diablo mode. Geekbench 6, single core 2284, multi 7338. This is the highest score I've ever seen out of any Android device. And of course, it's going to get better when a new chip's released. That's how technology works. But the way it sits right now, this is the most powerful Android device that I've ever been able to test. Next up, we've got 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme coming in with a 5239, and this is a Vulkan benchmark for that built-in GPU. And the final thing I ran here was Antutu, coming in with a total score of 2,158,951. And if you take a look down the list there, I mean, this is beating out everything else that we've tested. And the GPU score is close to 1 million all by itself. So yeah, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 is putting down some major power here when it comes to Android devices. Now I just wanted to move in a bit closer to show you all the performance settings we have while gaming, and of course you really don't need to change anything with Minecraft, but while you're gaming at any time, if you swipe from the right or the left hand side, it'll bring us into our performance menu. Over on the right hand side, we've got some switches that we can use. So we can disable the fan, we can turn the fan on, screen record mode, automatic rotate, we've got a timer that we can set up here. Memory clean, so if you do have some apps running in the background, you can go ahead and clean it up anytime you're in gaming. But you know, if you do launch a game from within the Redmagic time area, it will automatically do a clean for us. Now, one of my favorite things here is the on-screen overlay, which will give us a lot of information about the phone itself, but I'd say the main thing here is that FPS. It's a real-time FPS counter. I've also got battery percentage, but I usually just leave it like this. That way, we have a good idea of how well our games are running. Now, when it comes to different performance modes, usually when you start up a game, it's going to be in balance mode. For something like Minecraft, you could go to Eco to save some battery if you want to. As you see, our GPU and our CPU clocks are going to decrease or increase depending on the power mode we're in. So if we go up to Rise mode, this is a really good performance mode, but it's not taking this phone to the next level like Diablo mode does. On the far left-hand side of the screen, if we scroll all the way down, we can enable Diablo mode. It's going to give us an on-screen warning whenever we start up a game in Diablo mode. But as you can see, we've now got our CPU all the way up to 3.3 and our GPU up to 903. This will definitely up your performance if you're lacking, but to tell you the truth, with everything that I've tested, even just in Rise mode, I've had really good luck. Something like Minecraft can run full speed in Eco mode, I mean pretty much maxed out on Android. You're not going to have an issue with this game. So what I want to do is move over to some harder to run games, then we're going to move over to some emulation. Here's Call of Duty Mobile, very high settings, and we're at 60 FPS. Now I don't think that this is whitelisted just yet to do 90 Hz, but there's no doubt that this phone could handle this game at 90 Hz. And by the way, I am using an Xbox controller connected over Bluetooth. The Redmagic 9 Pro with this new software does have controller mapping software built in right out of the box, so we can actually map our controller to on-screen touch points for games that don't support controllers on Android, like Genshin Impact. And speaking of Genshin, 60 FPS, very high settings. I didn't have to turn anything down. I just went to very high, turn it from 30 to 60. And we do get a few dips here and there. I think it's shaders usually have that issue with this game. But definitely some of the best performance that I've seen out of this game on Android. Of course, playing this on a new iPhone, you can go up to 120 Hz and it actually runs really well there. But the developers do spend a lot more time on iOS than they do with Android. But overall, I mean, we've got more than enough power to handle any Android game from the market. If you want to sideload something, applications are going to run great. The next thing we need to check out is some emulation, and this thing is phenomenal. First on the list, PSP using PPSSPP Vulkan backend. We're at 10x resolution just to show you the power this thing can put out. You do not need to go up to 10x. We don't have that kind of resolution for the built-in screen here. But just to show you, yeah, 10x on this, no problem whatsoever. And of course, this is an easier game to run. I consider it a mid-range game. So let's go to something that's harder to run on lower-end chips, like Ghost of Sparta. Still at 10x resolution, and you know, trying to run this on a lower-end Android device, sometimes it's really even hard-pressed to run at 1x. Taking the resolution up this high, it's just a matter of time before these bugs get worked out with the emulator. And yeah, I'd say the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 is going to handle Switch just fine. The final thing I wanted to take a look at in this video is what they're calling console mode, and I think this really deserves its own video. So I've got a USB Type-C monitor that'll do up to 4K. It's actually a Redmagic monitor. You don't need a monitor that supports video over USB Type-C. You can use basically any USB Type-C to HDMI adapter. But basically, we're going to go ahead and plug this into a source, give it a few seconds, and initially what it's going to do is actually just mirror the screen. And this is great. You can definitely game like this. You can rotate the screen if you want to. But with the flick of a switch, we use that Redmagic button, it's going to bring us into what they're calling console mode. And as you can see, we've now got a full screen launcher over here. We can use the phone itself as kind of a trackpad if you want to, or we could use the phone totally separately. So we could actually play a game on the big screen or even watch a video on the big screen, and also use an app on the phone screen. But really, when it comes down to it, this is my favorite thing about these Redmagic devices because we've actually got a much larger screen to work with and game on. It does support keyboards, it does support mice and Bluetooth controllers. So we can navigate this with basically anything we've got connected. We can add and remove apps directly from the launcher here. So if you've got a bunch of stuff installed that you want to use on the big screen, you can actually just set it up directly in here. But we're going to launch, let's say, Asphalt 9, just an easier one to get into. We've still got our performance overlay, so we can see our FPS at any given time. And with this, I've also got a mouse and keyboard connected. But we can move this around. And down in the lower left-hand corner, we can still change our power profiles. Now, I personally haven't found a way to get into Diablo mode in console mode here. There's probably a workaround. But from here, we can change the mouse sensitivity, we can change our keyboard, we can also map a controller to games that just don't support controllers in Android. For gaming and emulation, I really do like this setup, but it would be nice to have a desktop mode also. That way we could have multiple apps running. Because right now, we're just kind of limited to a single app on the big screen, and we can always use the phone at the same time if we wanted to. It's not like Samsung DeX, where you get a big platform to work with. You can have multiple apps, different resized windows, and things like that. But for gaming, this is awesome, and that's why they call it console mode. I've been doing a little bit of testing with my game capture device, and that kind of gives me a good idea of what kind of resolutions we can support with USB Type-C video out. It looks like this will do up to 1440p, 60 Hz out. I could be wrong, it might be able to go up to 4K. Haven't found a setting for it, but at 1440p coming out of USB Type-C, it still looks awesome. But yeah, there's quite a bit that we can do with this, and if you're interested in seeing a full video, let me know in the comments below. I think it would be really awesome to have a phone like this we could turn right into a console. And now, with this thing putting out so much power, we could definitely get some really good gaming and emulation out of the way on a big screen. But that's going to wrap it up for my first look video at the Redmagic 9 Pro. This thing is putting out some really great power with that Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Love the design. We've got an absolutely beautiful display here. 6,500 milliamp hour battery, and with that built-in active cooling, you can run this in Diablo mode for very long periods of time without thermal throttling. If you're interested in learning a little more, maybe picking up a Redmagic 9 Pro, I will leave some links in the description. And even if you wanted to go with the lower end model that only has 12 gigs of RAM, you're still going to see this kind of performance. But keep in mind, you're limited on storage. We don't have a micro SD card slot, and that's how a lot of manufacturers are doing it now to kind of charge more for the higher end versions. I'd like to know your thoughts on the design, performance, and everything about the Redmagic 9 Pro. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But that's it for this one. And like always, thanks for watching.